So good afternoon. As you know, we're going into a meeting now in Syria. I just wanted to say that this morning, before the business ended, we had a discussion on Ethiopia. Take a moment to say Ireland called for that discussion on the humanitarian situation in Ethiopia because we're deeply concerned about the situation on the ground. We had an excellent briefing from Mr. Martin Griffiths, who shockingly told us it's 6 weeks since a convoy got through to Tigray. He told us there are over 5 million people in dire need on the ground. We remain deeply concerned. One of our colleagues used the term impatience in the context of the discussion today, and I just want to say, yeah, I'm very impatient. My government is very impatient. I think the people who are most impatient are the people who are starving in Tigray. So we feel it's not the time to turn away for quiet diplomacy. We're very pleased to see that the government of Ethiopia has made political commitments. We want to see those materialised on the ground. We also are very pleased that the political track negotiations, particularly led by AU envoy President Obasanjo, are well underway, and we're hoping to see, frankly, at the right time, to see him here with us in the Council. But to go back to the issue, the humanitarian situation can't wait. People on the ground who are starving can't wait. So that impatience is absolutely a concern, and we want to see some of the improvements. We've seen some improvements in Amhara and in Afar, but we haven't seen any deliveries into Tigray, and we want to see food, medicine, and then fuel and cash supplies, of course, also reaching the region. We are the co-pen holders, as you know, with Norway on Syria, the Syria humanitarian resolution, which we think is a critical element in terms of relieving some of the suffering for millions of people on the ground in Syria. We will discuss that again today. I'm glad that since we last discussed it, there have been some cross-line deliveries as well as cross-border supplies. Critical. This is a bad time of the year. It's bleak, it's freezing. People are in desperate need. So the value of that cross-border mechanism is really critical, and we'll discuss that. And also then in a second discussion later on Syria, we'll address latest attacks by terrorists, ISIS activity, really worrying. This, for me, says the fact that we're discussing this also today says this is a chronic, difficult conflict that we really need to solve.
Can I ask you a question on Ethiopia and one on Syria? First, on Ethiopia, you talk about political track and possible progress. Are we close to face-to-face talks between the parties in Ethiopia?
I want to see diplomacy yield results, and that's what we need. We need political dialogue. We need a national and political dialogue in Ethiopia itself, but we also need to see, hopefully under the aegis of the work that President Obasanjo is doing. I think nearly everyone today at the table said we support President Obasanjo's work. My own foreign minister, Simon Coveney, spoke with President Obasanjo just yesterday and encouraged him to keep working and to make even more effort so that we can see a resolution of this. We need to see a ceasefire, an end to hostilities. We need to see full humanitarian access and that political and national dialogue in Ethiopia. All three are needed for us to move beyond this. We know elsewhere in Ethiopia, in the southeast, there are drought conditions that are really concerning. We know over 6 million people at risk more generally in Ethiopia. This is a worrying situation.
And on Syria, on the prisons, the underlying problem with the prisons there, because this was an attempted prison break. We know that ISIL originally started because of prison breaks, the whole Islamic State problem. Doesn't something need to be done about these tens of thousands of detainees and women and children? And one of the main problems is that many of your EU counterparts and European counterparts won't take back their citizens. Doesn't a mechanism need to be put in place to try and solve this huge problem that everyone is trying to turn away from?
It is a big problem and it needs a solution. I'm not so sure that the European responsibility, as you describe it, is where I would focus attention. I think that all the parties to the conflict need to come to the table here. We heard from Geir Pedersen this week about his approach on the political level negotiations. We have asked the Syrian government to engage in these negotiations. We'll continue to do that. We are very worried about detainees, about a lot of people who are disappeared in Syria. We have called that out several times. Yes, there's a need for a resolution. It's a political resolution, and we at the table stand ready to play our part in bringing that resolution.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.